start recording. So we're live. Actually, I need to check something as well.
Hello, beautiful people.
Fine. Hello, we should be live. I'm gonna post the announcements. Posting this one. Posting the live stream one. It's the kind of stuff like I don't like to talk out to make have like a social pipeline. I press a button and it just kind of triggers everything.
Yeah.
Post, there we go. Okay, we're live. Hello everyone. Hello Ace. Hello. Let us know if you can hear us fine. We're using like the new secondary audio for the camera. It worked well last time, so I figured like it's probably gonna be fine today, but like let us know if there's like any issues. Can you hear both of us fine?
Can you hear our beautiful voices?
Blah. Hello, this one too. Hello Fuzzy. Hello Big Asian. The quest doesn't really like the deep blue. Like it just kind of becomes mush, which is interesting, or Steam Link. Hello.
It's
yeah,
like perceptually compressed.
Yeah. It's like the blue's not important. Why? Anyways, welcome to the stream. Welcome to another episode of Resonance. I'm Froox, I'm here with Syro, and here you can pretty much ask us anything you want to know about Resonite, or even just, whatever other questions, like, and we'll try to answer them the best we can. You can do typically do a lot of like technical questions, but you can also ask, more like philosophical, kind of like where the platform's heading, what are our goals for it, what's the history, what's the past, what's the future, like whatever you want to ask. The only thing, make sure to put a question mark at the end of your question. That way it pops out on our thing here. I can actually show you, like over here, like we have a thing, and if you put a question mark, it's gonna pop in. That way it makes sure we don't miss it. So we do have a bunch of questions also from Discord that are sort of like prepared. So we're gonna start with those while some like questions pile in. So let's start with the Discord questions. Also, if you're like asking more questions, you need to ask them in Twitch at this point. Don't ask them in Discord because we're not bringing any more in. I'm also gonna probably set a camera at the stationary here. There we go. So it's not moving. So the first question is from Missing. Missing is asking, are voice messages counted against one's overall cloud storage? Could there be option to automatically delete all ones after a certain time has passed? So yes, they're counted against your storage. They're generally very small. It's gonna be like, typically like can be like between like around dozens of kilobytes per like voice message. So it shouldn't add up like too much. Right now there's not really an option to delete them. But it's something, you can make a GitHub request. We probably want something like, fancier, like where you can delete individual messages and stuff like that. Say, on with the contacts UI rework, but since this can, it can take storage, what we could do is give you like a command to the Resonite bot where you say delete any, voice messages older, than this date, maybe for this contact or for all contacts, and we'll sort of do it in a batch. So I would just recommend like make a GitHub issue if this is like, an issue. If it's not a really big issue for you, like, they're running out of storage, we might like, wait until we actually kind of get to the contacts UI rework and we have like some nice UI to provide for that. Also thank you, Nukon, for the raid. Wow.
Given that you can only see like a certain range of messages you sent, are they not deleted after like a certain period, or are they just hidden?
No, it's just not fetching them. That's also a part like that we want to like rework, like, with the contacts UI. When it's using data feed, as you keep scrolling, it's gonna keep fetching, your history. So your history is still there. It's just right now the contacts UIs are like relatively primitive, and it won't like, like once you kind of scroll certain paths, like it just doesn't fetch any more. Next question. Oh, this is probably a silly one. Red is asking, how many Frooxes would it take to make Froox engine so fast with his technological singularity? 7. So the answer is always 7. Oh, we got one that like I feel like both of us could, since we both like watch Doctor Who. So Missing is asking favorite Doctor Who episode and why. That's actually kind of tricky because like I have like a few. I would definitely mention like one I really enjoy is Midnight, in part because like you have like this sort of almost kind of cosmic horror thing, where like you don't really know like what it is. It's a really good one, and also it's like some really phenomenal acting, like when especially when the Doctor and the entity sort of like sync up and they start like talking at the exact same time. And then must have taken like a lot of like takes and like a lot of effort to like act it so well. And it's funny to me because like it's like it's a bottle episode. It's literally filmed within a single location. They don't have any expensive sets. Like it's episode that's made to kind of save budget. That goes into other episodes, but it oftentimes, those types of episodes, they have to compensate by writing a really good story, and this is a really, really good story, and they work really well with that environment. And it's like, it gets very tense, it gets very like weird. You're like what is happening with this thing? You don't really even get an explanation. And like it's very good, and I kind of like more kind of horror kind of themed things as well. There's also like one bit I remember from an episode is like one of the guys, like because one of the things about an episode is like they kind of turn like Doctor's like strength, which is like talking his way out of situation against him, which is also kind of fun to see, like when something that normally helps him actually ends up like hurting him in here. And then we get like like the whole like as everything kind of stares, like people get like panicked, then like the tension kind of keeps going up. And I remember like one of the guys, like I think it was the guy, like I forget his name, but like he had like a purple-ish shirt. Like he said like that like he like his son wanted him to like play in Doctor Who, and he was very happy to be like in an episode, and it was kind of a fun story. I was also saying the other one is like I was having multiple, so thank you, check them for subscription. If you don't mind me doing a few more, I would say for another single episode is the Hellbent. Actually, wait, it's no Heaven Sent. Which should I go? Is it Hellbent or Heaven Sent that goes first? I think it's Heaven Sent.
Yeah, I think it's Heaven Sent. Are you talking about the one where he's in like the time loop and he's like punching his way through like the really hard material? Yeah. Yeah,
that one's really good, and they're like really cool storytelling. It incorporates sort of like, it's not quite time travel, but like incorporates like really well, and has a really powerful kind of story to it. And it's just like I once we kind of realized what's happening in the episode and how much time is passing and what he's doing. Like just kind of gives you this wow moment, and like that's also like a really good episode, really good acting. And also I would say there's like a two-parter that I really like, and I would love them to explore more. It's from the second season, like with David Tennant and Billy Piper. Was the I always forget which one goes first. Impossible Planet and Satan's Pit, because that like hints at this kind of like other thing, like stuff before universe, and and it's one of those rare moments when the Doctor doesn't know like what's happening, and like even the TARDIS is not able to translate the writing, and then acting the atmosphere of it, like the mystery of it, like it's a really excellent like I remember like I watched it like a while back, like when I was like still going to school, and I stayed up really late because I watched the first one, and then I could not watch the second one, so I stayed up really late. I got no sleep. But like the two-parter is like really good, and I would love for them to do more stuff like that.
Oh, Are You My Mummy is also a good one.
Yeah. What about you? I could like put a blubber about a bunch more, but I'm gonna stop here.
I'd like definitely like I agree, those ones are on like my top tier list as well. In particular, Ooh, I'd have to say it's a toss-up between Rings of Akhaten, where like it's the 11th Doctor and he's like basically fucking verbally flaying this fucking star that's like eating memories. Because he gives such a good speech, dude.
That's a very good speech,
gosh. And then the one where it's like the Zygons and like they both got their hand over like the blow everything up button, and he gives such the 12th Doctor gives such a good speech. Like 10, 11, and 12 are probably my 3 favorite Doctors of all time, and like 12 really knocked it out of the fucking park on that one. Holy crap, I could feel that.
Oh yeah, that's like a very, very good. I was gonna like mention like that, like speaking of speeches, like the 12th Doctor speech, that's probably like one of the best. Like the Power Doctor had like so many good ones. So the same one was I forget what it's called. I think Dr. Falls, like one of his last episodes, where he's like where he's like talking like with like the masters, and like.
Oh yeah.
And he goes like, I do what I do, like like because it's right, and like has the whole speech. It is also a really good one. There's a lot of like good stuff.
That one, I was actually just going to mention that one too.
But I do like that speech, like about like the war and the futility of the war, and like how he talks about like no matter how alright the people feel, like it just ends up like being wars and ends up hurting everyone.
Yeah.
It's really well done, and I feel like that's one of the defining Doctors, like one of the defining moments for not just the 12th, but like for the Doctor himself, like where he's like seen so many alien societies go into war and just destroy themselves, like thinking how right they are, and he knows like how it ends. And it's kind of like it's one of those moments like where it makes you feel like Doctor, because he's like this super old like alien, he's seen so much, and in a way like humans, like they're kind of like children a little bit, and like it's kind of like one of those moments where like he's he's able to see like from a kind of like that like kind of perspective of like being alive for thousands. Like I feel like I mean, it's got his age is like kind of weird, but I think at that point like he was like alive for like 2,000 years or something like that. I forget like where it's like in the chronology, but it is a good one. You got any more or? Do you want to mention? Or?
I think.
Are You My Mommy? Yes, that's also an excellent one. Yeah, and a lot of Stephen Moffat's like ones are like really good. Like he comes like with really cool ideas. I was also like, I didn't want to mention Blink because like it feels kind of stereotypical, but it is a good episode too.
Yeah.
I mean, there's like we could probably ramble about this for a while.
Yeah, we could. I have so many favorite episodes. We could go on for hours.
We should do Doctor Who Resonance at some point.
Yes.
Doctor Who rambles. But yeah, I think we should move on to the next one. Let's see. So Safi is asking, how can I support the Resonite? What do you think is the best way to get more people into Resonite? So there's like lots of ways to support Resonite. The easiest way is just be part of a platform, because the more people are on the platform, the more people there to hang out with, the more people to have fun with, and the more people we have, the more interesting Resonite becomes to like newcoming players, because it makes it easier to find people to hang out with and spend time with. So even just that helps the platform. The other things we can be building content. If you build cool worlds, if you build memes, if you build like gadgets that people like to play with, that helps too, because again, it's more stuff for people to play with, more kind of stuff to do on the platform, so that kind of helps. If you do have like social media, making like short videos, like posting about Resonite, what it can do, what you like about it, like showing short videos, that can help a lot, because that helps spread the word, spreads the awareness, brings more people into the platform, especially if you show like some of the really cool moments, like things where you are like like this is the thing that really hooks you, that can be a thing that hooks a lot of other people. So like sharing that with others, I think that helps a lot. and that helps the platform because we get more people in the community and we get more supporters. And then, of course, there's the financial way. Like, you can support us ideally on Stripe through our official kind of subscription system, or on Patreon if that's kind of easier for you. But we strongly prefer Stripe because we get more. We get like about 10% more money for the same amount you pay. So that way, that helps fund the development of the platform. It makes sure that we can kind of keep paying people. We can make sure that we keep the lights on. Keep the servers running. Stuff like that. So there's like lots of different ways to do. So it kind of depends, where your strengths are, like what you're able to afford, like what you can do. But there's definitely lots of ways to support a platform. And even just there's people, like we have lots of mentors, people who, when new users come in, they'll help them out. They'll set their avatars. That helps a lot too. It makes people's first experience on this platform much more pleasant. And they kind of, to get introduced to the community where they're like, they find that people are very helpful. And they oftentimes, find like that, like you can actually, if you need help with avatar or something, people can help you right on here. You don't have to leave, join some voice call or something. You can set up everything completely on the platform. So, to our mentors, that's a huge thank you because you're also helping a lot of people. We're helping a lot of people on this platform and bring them in and such. And it's also some people who will bring their friends or help organize friend groups to check out Resonite, show them around. That kind of helps as well. A lot of word of mouth kind of stuff, sharing stuff that helps. So yeah, there's a bunch. Oh, and so forget reporting issues on GitHub, finding, we've got lots of people, especially when we do pre-releases, people help kind of scour things and find different issues and bugs and so on, so they get fixed very quickly. And a lot of people who kind of do that, a lot of them can help narrow it down, which helps it helps on our end because it saves us a lot of time. It saves us a lot of time, trying to investigate, and we can fix the bugs faster and we can fix more of them. So there's lots of ways to help. Oh, and wiki, there's people editing the wiki. There's people doing translations as well, locales. We have a repo for that. So if you know a language, you can help translate Resonite into other languages, or even polish up the English locale. We have people who do contribute fixes to the English one as well. There's probably a bunch more. I'm kind of going, from the top of my head, but there's a bunch. Next question is from Missing. Missing is asking, are office hour streams mandatory for each team? Do you get paid or pay yourself for doing them? They're not mandatory. There's no payment. Well, a lot of the people on the team, they are paid for just their general time, but we're not asking them specifically to do office hours. A lot of the teams we do office hours because one, we kind of like doing them because it's a way to kind of talk with community, talk about our work, talk about what we're doing, and it just kind of can be fun to do. So a lot of the team they do it because they feel it's a good thing to do. But there's also teams that don't do office hours. And it's fine too. Next question is from Venport. Venport is asking, what is the point of the text field on the Protoflux tool component? It doesn't seem to do anything, but a new Protoflux tool always creates label slot with text render and being assigned to field, but there's an update when pretty much anything with standard Flux tool. I'm actually not sure. I have to check the code for it. Actually, sorry, I want to have a look. Do I have it at hand? It might be like one of those things where it was added for one function and then we kind of replaced it with something else and it's been forgotten about, so it's there and it's just not doing anything. So that happens sometimes. It might, in that case, we might just remove it. So I was gonna have a look. Found anything? Worst case, you might create a GitHub issue, about it. Like, it's like we'll either just like look at it and be like, okay, this can be removed, or we'll be like, no, it actually does this thing. Sorry, did you find anything?
Yeah, I'm just looking now. Let's see here. Proto flex tool. Underscore text. Yeah, it doesn't do anything.
Okay, we're probably just gonna nuke it then. I'm also just making like the GitHub issue about it. Next question is from BD underscore. BD underscore is asking, there's a hack to create desync field by having a field drive itself with a writeback. Is this stable-oriented behavior, or is it likely to break in the future? If it's stable, how is the initial value for user training session determined? So it's kind of sort of supported. Like, what do you have to know like about driving mechanism? When you drive something, you're essentially saying, I'm taking responsibility of this value. Do you synchronize this? I'm controlling this from this source. So when you do that, you're essentially, you're sort of taking that responsibility, which means the system is not guaranteed to like, synchronize it for you. Well, it's not gonna synchronize it for you. It's not guaranteed to like, provide initial value. You are now responsible for that. Typically, that mechanism is used, when you have something that's convergent or something that can be deterministically computed from other values. So you have like a bunch of source values, and you compute something, do some math on them, and you use that to derive a different value. That value doesn't need to be synchronized because it is derived from those other values. You can also have like some internal state that's like not synchronized, but like the value is being it's converging towards something. Like for example, smooth lerp, it has like internal like value. The actual driven value is not going to be exactly the same for each user, but it'll converge towards the same value, assuming the input value that you're driving it towards to is also synchronized, which comes from the data model. But it can also be used for mechanisms where you intentionally diverge the value. The whole point of that is, it's a controlled mechanism to say that you're taking control of particular part of the data model. And that's the important part too, is like, because it specifies who actually controls that part of the data model, because that system is then responsible for whatever that value is. So if you do this, you're essentially, taking the responsibility for it. Which means, it's kind of up to you to make sure, like, that's whatever initial value you want is actually set properly, because you use the drive mechanism to take responsibility for it. And it's gonna keep working, but like, it's one of the core like principles of the data model. It's just you have to understand, you have now the responsibility for initializing the value and determining its value at all times. Next question's from Abysmal. Abysmal's asking, are there plans to support controlling Resonite? Hold on, sorry. Just click over a thing. There we go. Abysmal's asking, are there plans to support controlling Resonite only via hand tracking at some point? It's something we would like to do. We don't have like super specific plans when to do it or when to prioritize it. What I would recommend is, check if there's a GitHub issue for it. If there's not, make a GitHub issue and, get people to upvote it, because that's, oftentimes like the signal we use to prioritize things. Also, monitoring might happen if there's, uptick in hardware for like hand tracking. We might want to add like, more support for it. So like people can play Resonite without having to use controllers at all, they just use their hands. It also depends, what level, because we can, it's much easier to provide general control, like, for just moving around, grabbing things, clicking things. But if, for example, want to do like, using all the tools, that is a little bit trickier, because, the tools might have a bunch of buttons, there's a bunch of like, operations, so that might make it a little bit more difficult, to make it fully generalized. So it kind of depends on what level too. But definitely something we'd like to have. Next question is from Ace. I'm gonna put it here maybe. Where's space? There we go. Ace is asking, I know VRChat has this feature, but Resonite doesn't, although it would make sense to implement this after iCarry work. Would we ever get full body via OSC? Like the ability to receive tracking data via OSC? For example, there is a full body app in the App Store called Visa. It is similar to MediaPipe Pose, but uses AI detection algorithm that makes it more smoother than MediaPipe. Basically, Visa is the best full body solution if you want to use your phone. The problem is that I can only use it with OSC in VRChat. It doesn't have option to emulate SteamVR trackers. The sad thing is that developers still working on it and don't plan on making it open source. In the end, I believe anyone should have access to full-body Resonite and have a good experience even if they have to use their phone's camera. So I'm not super familiar with the system. I assume like it sends you like the poses of the body like points. So like from the surface, it doesn't seem like it would be too difficult to like add a driver to it. Like we could add like OSC driver that like that maps to like in-game trackers. So even if it doesn't emulate the VR trackers, it should be relatively easy. But I would recommend make a GitHub issue about it, so we can kind of we can take a look, gauge the complexity of it, and see like can we prioritize it? Can we do this relatively quick? But I think like it is possible. Like assuming like you do mean like body trackers, because like you mentioned IK, so I don't know if this means like it's giving you the whole IK for a player, or if it's just giving you like the endpoints. But if it's more like trackers, then like that's much easier to add, because we already have like a subsystem for that, so it's just writing a driver. And last question from Discord is from Beamed. Beamed is asking, how efficient are drives when it comes to constantly driving a field that is merely changing? For example, driving a string to field that is just referenced to from slot name. Does the system know that it shouldn't update its every frame? And there is major difference between how FlexDrive between FlexDrive behaves versus component like dynamic driver or value copy. So yeah, it gets pretty efficient. It depends on the sources, but like if you don't use a source that like the system either you have like multiple types of sources essentially. There's sources that like will change continuously. They change every frame, and it's something like for example the T node, like time node, that just changes every frame. But you also have nodes like say smooth lerp. If you have smooth lerp somewhere in the chain, that changes every frame because like the value is smoothly interpolated and can be even subtly changing every single frame. The system has no way to know when it actually stops changing. So it just kind of keeps everything every frame. But if you don't have any continuously changing sources or like processing nodes in the chain, it's actually going to be very efficient. Protoflax, it'll build a list of sort of inputs that it needs to watch for changes, and only when any of these inputs change, then when it actually schedules an update for that value. So in this particular case, when you're driving a reference from a slot name, if you're referencing the data model directly, you're referencing the slot name, like the field itself, it hooks into the events of that, and it's only gonna compute the drive change when that changes. If you use like any of the nodes, like the more higher level ones, then like get slot name from a slot reference, then that would change every frame, because like like the node is dynamic. It doesn't know when the slot might change or when its name changes, so it will proactively try to like update every frame. But if you get into the field itself directly, you create like one-to-one binding, then it's going to be very efficient. So that's all the questions we have from Discord. So we can move to the questions from questions. Oh yeah.
Apologies, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just going to say that I have a small addendum to that last thing as well, because they mentioned like a string. Because like it's just something really random I thought of. Because like if you're driving a string, then wouldn't that make like a new string every frame?
Say again.
If you're driving a string, would that make a new string every frame? Like if you drive it from like say a floating point value that changes every frame.
If it's a floating point value, so it depends when the string is computed. So like the string is only gonna get computed when the drive gets evaluated, and the drive gets evaluated when either when the inputs change, So when the inputs change, the driver gets evaluated, it creates a new string, at that point. But if the inputs don't change, then the drive doesn't get evaluated and there's no new string because it didn't get evaluated. It didn't the code didn't run at all. So that's sort of it doesn't the string only gets created when it actually runs the computation, and drives if you don't have any continuously changing nodes in the chain, it's only going to change when there's actually changes, and that means it's only going to run the logic to compute anything new every time. But if you have if you have a value that is changing every frame and you're computing string from that, then you are creating new string every frame.
Okay, I've seen a lot of people do that.
Yeah. So the first question from Twitch is from Ace on Twitch 17. Ace is asking, now that the mesh upload is done, what is the next step before the actual splitting? How many steps are there before the actual splitting? So the mesh upload actually is part of the splitting, because the splitting, what it essentially is it is pulling them kind of apart. And for that, we kind of reworking how the two actually communicate so they can be pulled apart, and the mesh upload is part of that. It's not the part where it actually is split into the process yet, but it is part of that pull. And the question to the actual splitting, when the pull actually happens, is actually the very next part. The mesh upload was kind of one of smaller kind of pieces. That could be done and released to the community in the build. The next one is going to be much bigger. There's actually going to be reworking how all of the kind of rendering gets communicating, and that's much kind of bigger kind of part of the task, and that's pretty much the part that's being worked on right now. So that is very kind of close. Once that's kind of reworked, there's also going to be part of some of the input stuff needs to be communicated and so on. But once that's reworked, we'll be able to pull them apart essentially, or it is kind of it is part of that kind of actual pull, the separation,
like bread. The
next questions from Moonbase. Moonbase asking, probably a stupid question that I could look for answer myself, but what's the work on? Oh, this is the same question. Yeah. Okay. Skipping that one. Also, thank you for the raid, Nuki, and the subscription again from Jack the Foxotter. He's saying bois. Oh yeah, this was Are you my mommy?
Yeah.
This is a very good two-parter. Oh, this is... Oh, oh no, goodness. Oh, dang it. I very tuned in and missed the Doctor Who question. What was the favorite episode? We make a clip. We actually had several. A bunch, several. It's kind of hard to pick just one. I'll make a clip, once this gets uploaded, I'll make a clip about us, talking about Doctor Who episodes. I already did one of, I did the one of Dagadu. Which is still streaming, by the way. There. And I did one of the Doom Eternals, so I kind of mixing some of the lighter stuff. But yeah, I'll make a clip. You can either watch it in the clip or just watch the push the upload. Or maybe next one ask us for more Doctor Who stuff and we get to ramble more about Doctor Who stuff, but we already rambled a bunch on this stream. Next question's from Ace on Twitch 17. After splitting, do you plan on taking a small break before working on the next project, hanging out with the community, going to FC? Me personally, I don't want to overwork yourself. Probably, I kind of hope. It's been kind of hard, just going on it. I'm kind of taking a bit of a break too, with stuff, but touring, but it is a lot. It's just a lot of kind of we need to this needs to be done, this needs to be done, this needs to be done. It's just a lot of kind of pressure constantly. So I hope a lot of that will kind of lower after that, but we'll see how things go. It tends sometimes issues it feels like water. It's like anytime you make a like little gap somewhere, the water is just like and just fills it in. Check the Froox author is asking, how's the work on splitting going? I took a few days break, I'm back, I noticed you pushed update because I saw the skin mesh calling back made into the main build earlier. Yeah, so like the mesh upload, I'm quite happy with that one. It ended up like being a bit of a like pain to like do, like because there's a lot of things because we're using like low level APIs and we're preparing all the API like buffers. And there's like pretty much like no validation going on, but there's also like a real weirdness like where some of the updates, like for example, if the mesh is updating and the number of submeshes changes, for some reason the index buffer, even though it wasn't changed and we didn't tell Unity to change it, it gets corrupted. So I had a system which detects if the number of submeshes changes, it will have to like sort of sanitize the submeshes, then change, and then re-upload the index buffer. So there's like a lot of like weird behaviors, like that either results in caches or corrupted meshes or like other weirdness that like is not even documented, and I don't think it's even intentional behavior. I think it's just kind of being very messy that like I had to like work around. One of the devlogs I made like is like like where the mesh is kind of turned into like just spikes and everything. And the reason for that is like when you use a skin mesh, and Unity is computing the skin mesh calculations, it assumes that like a very specific format for the vertex, buffer. And if it's not in that format, it's just gonna compute everything as if it was that format, which means if it's not in that format, it just ends up making garbage data, which ends up looking like those spikes. So that's kind of what's happening, and it took a little bit to figure out, like that, like this is what's happening. But now it seems it's working. It seems to be pretty stable. We have like more kind of control over it, and like it kind of helps, and it helps like the performance a fair bit, especially like loading stuff. Like people are like testing it, and like oftentimes like when you load like big heavy avatars, especially with lots of blend shapes, like that doesn't really hurt as much as it used to. Same like with like some like heavy URX stuff, because URX is meshes that like is lighter too. And now it's like pretty much like I kind of started like sketching out like the actual communication like what needs to like happen for the rendering stuff. So like that's gonna be the next big push, and that's something I'm excited for because that's the main part. Like once that's reworked, like gonna be the processors are gonna be being pulled apart.
Reason number 5,768 to not use Unity.
Oh yeah. Next question is from Nukon. Speaking of calling system, which is more efficient, using spatial variables or using Froox to check if the location of user view is above or below numbers? That depends a lot. Depends a lot like how many you have, because like if you have just few locations, it might be like you might write more efficient system with Froox. It's very purpose specific. But if you're just looping through lots of locations in Froox and checking them, then spatial variables are probably gonna be more efficient, because spatial variables, they are backed by a spatial acceleration query. We're using one from the Beppo physics, which makes probing things spatially very, very efficient. So it's hard to say in general. I would say probably in most cases it's gonna be the spatial variables, but you can definitely write stuff in Froox that's very, like, say like you're calling like you split your world into like a grid. You split your world into a grid, like, and you're just calling things based on when the user is in the grid and like users here. So what you could do is you usually take the position of the user, normalize it, compute the grid like cell, which is just like a division, and then you call things based on that. So like if you do something like that, it's probably going to be more efficient than spatial queries. But also like you have to write like very specific like Froox. So it depends. I would say spatial variables, like unless you're doing some very specialized Froox. I don't know what that one is. If you're like asking like follow-up question or something, like please include the context, because we'll probably forget what it's about like when we get to it. Sichub? I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name. Satan's asking, I'm looking at expanding my controllers to have more buttons, like more than 10 each, so I can trigger custom actions quicker just by pushing them or combination of them. I will just use a microcontroller, but my question is, should I use OSC to communicate with Resonite for button presses, or is there a better way? I mean, OSC is one way. It's probably easy to set up. You can also do, stuff like WebSocket, HTTP maybe. You could write a plugin if you want to, so there's like multiple ways, but OSC tends to be pretty easy to integrate, which is one of its big benefits. Ace on Twitch is asking, do you remember your Typhon X from last week? I don't, I'm sorry. Next question is from Nukon. Nukikon's asking, how would one use spatial variables for cutting a border by 2 planes across the X and 2 planes across Y, then calling based on that side of these planes they are on independent of each other. I was planning to rework the calling in the avatar station for this, but I'm told the spatial variables do it better. And there's multiple ways to achieve it. So one way you can do it is one way you can do it, there's 2 ways. One is you define locations in the world, as spatial variables, so these are locations, and then you sample at the position of where the user is to figure out which zones are within that, and then based on that you activate or deactivate the zones. Or the opposite way you do it is you actually define, this would be pretty much the main way you do it. Yeah, you would still do something along these lines, sort of. Or actually, the other way you could the other way you could do it is use these, and then for the user, you have a system that samples these, and then it sends signals to these, maybe to core or something like that. I haven't actually built a system myself, so it might not be the best to ask this. I need to all of the time to kind of work out a good system for that. So yeah, sometimes it takes a bit to get through the Discord. I think actually we got through Discord questions pretty quick because we were last time it took us an hour or so, and this time it was in 30 seconds. But yeah, if you're one thing I would generally recommend to is people if you're watching the stream, ask the questions on the stream, that we won't have as much on Discord to go through first. Checking for exotic, can I enable on Cyro's ears? What's Cyro question?
If you ask very, 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 very nicely.
Constant Disky. The next question is from Triple Helix. Triple Helix is asking random question, probably ask Discord as well. I just bought a USB adapter for my guitar here, guitar controller. Think I could get it working with Resonite. I know people get all kinds of stuff working, but I'm not sure what our limitations of that thing are. So it depends what level you want it to work. If you just want an integrated video stuff, say bring the data in, I would say we can pretty much do that with any controller, because you can use stuff like OSC or WebSockets, and you can pretty much bring whatever arbitrary data you want in. It doesn't matter what it is, you can bring it in, and then do stuff with it. If you want to integrate it with Resonite's input system, so it kind of works as a controller for the player and so on, that's a little bit more involved. You probably need to write a plugin for that, or have it emulate Xbox controller or something like that. Next question is from PHX Fallen. They're asking, do you think Resonite can completely eliminate hitching when objects avatar spawn in the foreseeable future? So I would say completely eliminating hitching, that might be near impossible for arbitrary things, because there's lots of cases why hitching might kind of happen, but there's ways you can eliminate a lot of it. So for example, we address one of them. Another one is it's gonna be heavily improved with .NET 9, just because that kind of runs faster. But there's also mechanisms where things can be kind of spread out over multiple frames, or kind of done sort of asynchronously. so that kind of help like with like stuff like hitching and so on. But doing complete elimination, like it's like it's one of those things like where it's like you get kind of diminishing kind of like returns, or not diminishing returns, but it kind of gets like exponentially more difficult. So say eliminating 90% of hitches is way easier than eliminating 99% of the hitches, and eliminating 99% of hitches is way easier than eliminating 100% of hitches. It's like the higher you kind of go, it's kind of like exponential, and kind of like because you have kind of like you've got like more obscure causes of hitches that like might be combination a lot of complex factors. When a lot of stuff kind of happens, like where you're pretty much like never gonna be able to get 100% guarantee, like that like things will, at least not like in a complex system like this, that it'll never hitch. But we can definitely like eliminate a lot. I feel. Next questions from Nukon. How do spatial variables work internally? Is it just greater than or less than type stuff in C#, or is there further level that I'm realizing? Yeah, it's a lot more advanced than that. We are using a spatial acceleration structure from Beppu physics. It's called bounding box tree or bounding volume tree. Sometimes you like you can see like what's the word, abbreviation BVT, like bounding volume tree. And what it essentially is, you sort of like recursively subdivide a space. So say you have like a bunch of things. You have something here, 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 maybe you have something over here. So what the system will do, it'll, you have like your root. This is your entire space, and it's gonna progressively split it into like, into like smaller kind of bits. So there's gonna be like, for example, this one, and then this one's gonna get split, say it splits it like, this way and this way. And then this one gets split like, here, and then this one gets, for example, split here, and then this one gets split like, like this, and then like this. So sort of like, a tree structure, and then like when you're searching, you start from the root, and you're like, and for example, you want to figure out, is something here at this point? And what it can do is like, it's gonna be like, okay, so this point is not contained here, so I can ignore this whole part. And there can be like, a lot of other stuff here. So this one has like, further subdivisions as well, there's a whole bunch of stuff here, but like, it essentially looks, is it either here in this half, or is it in this half? And it's like, okay, it's not in this half, so I can just eliminate this whole completely, stop considering this half at all. And that is, and it's gonna be, is it in this half, or is it in this half? It's not in this half, so I eliminate this half, and like, then it just looks in this part. And usually, if the tree is well balanced, that tends to like be very, very fast. Like the complexity is like, it's some like a logarithm of some number. I forget like what exactly. But like it tends to scale like, if you are doing a loop, if you do a loop, say like you have a million things in a system, and you want to do like, a search. At worst, you will have to search a million items, which is, you have to do a million steps to find the thing you want, which is gonna be slow. With this kind of system, because it's sort of like, halving it. So like if you assume like optimal tree, it's optimally subdivided. You're essentially splitting by half. So you start, first step is you have million objects. You split it in half. You have, now we have like 500,000. Split it in half. You have, 250,000. You split it in half again. You get, this much, and like the numbers are like going down very, very quick. You could probably calculate like how much that is, like with the logarithm. I think it's gonna end up like being something like 6 steps. I think half of
18.
this is like something like 6. I don't actually know what exactly it is, but so
Like
yeah, so this
13
is gonna be
or so.
about like 13 or 14 steps to find the item you want. So like you keep like having it, and like it goes very fast. So instead of having to do, let's say like this, 30,000, 15,000, and it just kind of keeps. And once you do like the 13 or 14 steps, you find the item you want. So instead of having to do 1,000,000 steps, at worst you have to do like 14 steps with with the same amount of items. So these algorithms tend to be very fast.
Eliminate like huge swaths of the area at once is like the important bit.
Yes. Yeah, it's like you essentially like every step of the way, like you're sort of halving the number of items you have to search, and it doesn't always like end up like being like the tree can be suboptimal, but it's still gonna be like way less steps than 1,000,000. So yeah, it's and plus like Bitbu physics, like it like Norby has like he's really optimized it like really well, so like it tends to work pretty fast. Based on Twitch is asking, how many Frooxes does it take to unscrew Froox engine from Unity? I'm just me.
One and
I
a
have
half.
like 1.5. I have like some help like with some stuff, like Sarah's been helping like with like like for example with the audio stuff that kind of helped a lot with the reverb and things. He sacrificed his ears for the cause. We got Prime's brain, we've got Cyrus ears.
Yes.
Q Wolves is asking, I have a question, somewhat Resonite related. I am quite busy at the moment to search. I am attempting to write a program to control my Headless account without having to SSH into my controller, running few commands to get access to Headless CLI, all into one Resonite client. It is frowned upon to have my program use the Resonite libraries as suggested by a friend for easier access to Resonite API, or if it's fine. Is it frowned upon if the user agent is Resonite? It's not really frowned upon. Just like like make sure like, you're kind of getting them from official sources and such for the binaries. For the user agent, like it's probably gonna be fine, but I would probably like if you're like making your own thing, I would recommend just using your own user agent, because right now it's probably not gonna cause an issue, but there's a possibility if we see like some issues, we might add like additional validation, like if we see like that header, or maybe we do something special depending on that, which might break your thing. So it might be better to just use your own user agent. Like the API should still respond to those requests. Missing Nerd is asking.
Sorry.
What were you saying?
I was gonna say the big thing is don't redistribute the libraries.
Yeah, like that's the only thing you can ask. Next question is from Missing Nerd. Missing Nerd is asking. Oh, no, I'm over the camera. Missing Nerd is asking, not sure if that was asked today before since I joined late. Is it internet for users to keep access to Headless program if they switch back to lower tier? Kinda not, but like we don't have like way to just delete it, for you. We could use like more aggressive mechanisms, like require like linking with a specific account, and the Headless will refuse to work. So we might end up like introducing that at some point maybe, but it's like you probably shouldn't be like keep like using it on. The thing is also like we might kind of change the thing, so like you generally like you don't get any updates for it, like like once you kind of stop supporting at that level. The next question is also from Missing Nerd. Froox, did you watch the Reality War shots? I did. There were some like really good parts. Some parts like where like I wasn't expecting, but also some parts like where I feel like some of the storylines kind of got like not really resolved and just kind of punted and not really used well. So it's like, and then there's like. I don't know, like, I can't really say too much without like going into spoilers, but like there's like some character, like especially the ending, it's kind of like it's like what is happening, and it's gonna be interesting going forward, I guess. I don't know. I don't want to like go into spoilers since it's very fresh and it's probably a lot of people haven't seen it. Are there any other, Ascent which is asking, are there any other features or projects that guys need on engineering side of the team besides molecule? I would say like the molecule is the big one. Let's see. I don't think like this, they're not like any specific like engineering stuff.
Probably like, I don't know, splitting some of like our internal projects out into like their own projects, because like the Froox engine solution is kind of big, but it's kind of like the only one I can think about.
Oh, that'll be a good one. Yeah, that's kind of the part is like, I think it's considered part of like the molecule stuff because like it kind of includes like need some stuff, you know, CI/CD things and so on, and some of the kind of cleanup and project split thing is kind of helping there.
Yeah.
I was also, I would actually say like the, you know, .NET 9 switch, because that's gonna help a lot with like things.
Yes, especially in the internal projects, because like we use like 2 or 3 like different .NET versions, like 4.6.2, 4.7.2, and then like net standard for some of them. So it'd be nice to have them all in one version. It
just causes a lot of pain. There's actually another lighter thing that like might help is once we add WebAssembly support, because it might help like with some of the native dependencies. Sorry. It might help like with one of the native dependencies. Because like right now we have to kind of compile them for, you know, specific platforms. With WebAssembly we could like, you know, compile them to that, and then it's just multi-platform, it just kind of runs and kind of simplifies the process on our end. So that one, but I wouldn't say like that one's strictly like needed, but it will also kind of help like reduce a lot of workload with some of the stuff.
Oh yeah.
Next question is from Mars Manche. I never know how to pronounce it, I'm sorry. Would using physics collision events, context star end, be more performant than spatial variables when you want to know if something is inside area? Depends. It depends how you structure things. Because like the benefit of contact start, contact end can be like, you know, you can only do work when the contact starts and when it ends, and you don't care, you know, for the in between. With spatial variables, you have to like, you know, constantly query it. So it could be like more performant, like depending on the use case, but also like doing the contacts, you know, between bodies, because like spatial variables, they work where you have like, you know, defined shapes, and the query, but the query is like a single point. You're not like, you know, using a shape. So if you want to use shape, you know, if you want to check if a shape is within area, then you definitely need to use collisions. You pretty much don't have a choice because spatial variables don't, like, they don't really do collisions. But if you don't need to use shape, then it, like, you know, that alone might like make it less performant, because the physics engine is checking entire shape against like, you know, another shape, and it's like computing, you know, like the contacts and everything between it, which, you know, for just checking if something is inside area, you know, is a lot of wasted work, because you like, if you have like, you know, 2 ships colliding, you don't care where are they colliding, like at which points, but the physics engine is gonna run those computations, and it's gonna maintain those computations. So it depends. I would say like it's one of those things, you know, like you have to kind of design around and then benchmark it maybe. Next questions from D. Daron is asking, questions, will the Headless Affair ever come to the public outside of Patreon? At some point we'd probably like to have it like public. Probably not gonna do it until we have like a system for like sort of, we will provide a service for like hosting headlesses, because it is like, you know, one of the sources of income that kind of helps develop the project. So if we do want to make it public, we need to kind of make sure we supplement that income, because if we like, you know, say we made it public right now and a lot of people, you know, would drop their support, they will actually hurt the project, because now like we'll have like less funds for the team. Maybe now we'll have to like, you know, let people, you know, from the team, and it creates its own problems where, you know, now we're like understaffed in like more areas, and that can have like, you know, cascading effects. So we tend to be kind of careful about those kinds of decisions. Next question is from Ace on Twitch 17. I remember you mentioning about a month ago about wanting to add posting system. Would it mean that you have to add separate page for profile so you can see people's posts, but it somehow be in context page, then that gets reworked? I think it would probably be like a separate page. Like it would probably integrate into multiple places. So you would have like, you would have like a feed of things where you see like all the posts from everyone, and you could click on someone and see their specific feed. So generally like the UI rework, it'll have like a lot of like the idea is so you can have like different pieces of the UI in different places, and they sort of can be more interchangeable with each other. So for example, once you rework the web browser, like for the session like previews and stuff like that, if you send someone an invite, it's just going to use the same piece of UI instead of having its own, and we just having like more reuse of the same UI. So they would probably have a similar thing. Next question is from Nukon. The last one gives me a thought. Is there a way to set local variables from host end? Would Headless somehow calculate stuff from user's position and send it to them? I don't really know what do you mean by that. Yeah, but if you have local variable, then that's local for that user. You cannot really set it. You'll need to introduce your own mechanism to do it. But if you're doing that, you probably don't want to use local variable. You just use a synchronized variable, because that's that gives that. It literally has that functionality. You're essentially just rebuilding that. Next question is from Triple Helix. I have a question about listeners. Is there any way to limit how far they can hear? I made basic PA system kind of thing, but listener can't hear really far, which caused lots of feedback. Perhaps there's something missed, but I couldn't find any way to do it. So right now there's not, but I would like to add a mechanism for it where you can change the sort of fall-off curve, so you can change how sensitive it is, and maybe change the directionality of it, so you can make more directional microphones and stuff like that. But right now there's not a way to do it. There's still something that will need to be added.
Yeah, audio outputs though you can tell an audio output, I think, to not output to a certain listener. So if you wanted to not have your thing feedback, you could just ignore the input listeners.
Yeah, you can include a specific one, but you cannot change how far they hear, but you can make it so just some of them are not audible at all. Next question is from PHX Fallen. What would it take? What would it take to have all the components documented on the wiki? A lot of time. A lot of time. More than we have, unfortunately, right now.
There's a lot of knowledge contained within all of our heads, and to put it all in one place is really hard.
It is one of those things that's a continuous process. We try to document as much as we can and document more important things, but it's never gonna be perfect. There's always gonna be more stuff to be documented. It's definitely one of those things where we appreciate the help from the community, documenting stuff and so on, but doing all of it it's right now we're way too small for that. We probably need to have dedicated people handling documentation. Next question is from Nukon. Nukon is asking, do spatial variables support any sort of object locality, dynamics have spaces? If I copy an object in spatial variable, do I have to change the name of variable manually, or is it their way around it? So the spatial variables, the space is global. You use the names to separate them. So if you want different names for different objects, then you have to you'd have to change the name pretty much. If it shares the name, then it's going to contribute to the same variable, and it's kind of part of it because it is a space where you define the variables, so the space is kind of shared. Next question is from Angelboy VR. Angelboy VR is asking, once we are all enjoying the blessing that is Net 9, what do you plan to test out its potential? Anything you always wanted to do or thought would be as satisfying with Mono? Anything you want to test? Anything is game. Personally, I will for fun test how much I can put on my avatar before things get noticeably heavy. And it's probably just gonna be like, just a lot of general Resonite stuff, hanging out in worlds, going like to, I know like some people want to host like, some parties and events and like raves and stuff like that. So like going to those, I know like I like to go, stuff like Campfire Friday, for example, and, or like some of like USFN, like the karaoke sessions, for example, and, there's like Cards Against like Humanity big games. There's Blood on Clock Tower. Just seeing how this kind of stuff runs. I would also like want to like try some of the heavier worlds to see like how that stuff kind of runs, and just kind of like running through loads of different things and seeing how well it kind of performs. So, yeah, it's probably gonna be a lot of different stuff. I do want to try like re-importing some of the Minecraft worlds again.
I want Tracy
Although like I don't know if it's gonna help with it. Second. Oh yeah, that one's gonna be a good one.
Yeah, Tracy profiling.
Yeah, it's gonna help a lot, like with more improvements too. The next question's from Marsmanchi. How's the progress on physics phase going that Sarah was working on a while ago? Looks really promising. It's pretty much almost done. Like we just kind of found some more like kind of issues, and that kind of need to be kind of split out. And I think like I haven't like I don't think I like updated branch like this week or.
Yeah, I was gonna look into it this week. So there's so it basically like grew into a little bit more than I think we thought it would, and so it needs to the PR needs to just be split up into a couple separate parts, and a few bits and bobs here and there need to be like cleaned up because they're kind of suboptimal and not really structured very well. But actually, that's actually kind of like one of my weaknesses, as I kind of struggle with managing bigger projects. So this is like good experience with that.
Yeah, it's like one of those things. Like it kind of happens like where the PR starts like something really simple, and then it's like you add more to it, and you add more to it, and you add more to it, and it like reworks this thing, and it changes this, and it just kind of keeps ballooning. It kind of makes it harder to manage. And we're actually like. I was at the point like where it was like I actually merged it, and then I was like compiling the notes, and I was like, wait, I don't remember this part, and I was like, okay, there's a part like I haven't even like went through that's like not even related to Swiss, but it's kind of changing some related stuff. I was like, oh no, there's an issue, so I had to unmerge it, which is pain, and it caused like Sarah a lot of pain.
I'm sorry.
But like it's just like, unfortunately, it was one of those things that just kind of suffered like this kind of fate, and like we're kind of working on like making sure that we kind of like for future things, so the PRs are kind of kept like smaller and more kind of focused on things, so they can be like merged like faster. Because it's like, and that's a good thing like in general, like with like development is like the smaller, more targeted it is, the easier it is to kind of handle, because you have less stuff to like worry about and keep in your head. But yeah, I think it's pretty close. Like I think like if like just like it might be like released pretty soon, like maybe next week or the one after.
Yeah, I'll definitely drill into that super hard this week. I definitely want to like get it over the finish line.
Next one is from Charismare, asking, what is the music in the background? I don't actually know. It's the music that comes with this world. We should be able to find the name of it though. Hold on, let's see. There should be, because this is one of the creator gem worlds. So let me oop. There we go, let's have a look. Not creator gem, MMC worlds. What is it in Korean? There was a language setting here. Aha. So there's music. Guys, there's credits. Team leader. Special thanks. Credit details. Modeling tools.
Oh, here it is. Right here.
This it. There we go. War BGM. There we go. There's the
Kevin
music.
Leon. Good old Kevin.
Kevin MacLeod. Oh, I'm surprised I didn't even recognize this one, because there's a lot of Kevin MacLeod stuff. There we go. Aha.
We
What do you
can't
got a
do this,
literature? Okay, let's go back here, camera anchor. There we go. Oh yeah, so I was gonna show the photos. I can do like what 30 questions are now, there's still like a bunch of time, but it is the music. Next question's from Shining Hero 1. Shining Hero is asking, this might end up being written into feature requests, but would Froox engine be capable of designating assets and variants to be stored in security ephemeral cache, possibly even no cache depending on user component needs? I would say probably feature requests. Like it's that might be tricky. Like I would need to understand like your use case because like usually, like I don't know, like you're talking about like assets that are like just like you download a world like this like cache because like. I don't know what why would you want secondary cache because they're already in cache, so why have a second cache if they're already in a cache? And no cache is kind of tricky because it needs to download it. It needs to download it so it's able to load it. So that can be tricky too. Like I don't know. Like I will need to like understand what your use case for this is. Next question is Asant, which is asking, whenever a profile page gets added to the dash, would there be any customization? If so, how much creative freedom would the community have to customize their profile? Would it be something like MySpace, where you can customize your entire profile? So I'm not familiar with MySpace, so I can't say, but we definitely want to like provide like a bunch of cool customization options. So make it kind of your own thing. But probably need to like put some limits because like. We could make it like where like say it's literally just like you build it in world and like you can put whatever in there, but then like it's gonna be like people can put all kinds of heavy and unwieldy stuff in there, and that's gonna be an issue.
Like Anyland.
Yeah, so we'll see when we get to it, but there's probably gonna be a bunch of customization options.
They did that in Anyland actually. You could do that.
Yeah. We might have like one of the cool things like I think that could be good like with a profile page is having like a profile world. So like like you make a world that's sort of like a presentation of you. So like you look at a page that's relatively light, but there's a button like visit my world, that like see my stuff.
Yeah.
So there might be a good approach, like good kind of compromise. Is like have some creativity on the profile page. And then, like, we can have, like, profile world, and it just links to a particular world which you use to present yourself, and you can do whatever you want in that. And the user has a choice whether they go there or not. Next question's from PHX Phone. Likely to work on a mission timelines this year, like, so we could do things like compose music from sequence samples in-game. I don't know yet. Like, it's gonna depend on a lot of stuff, like how things get prioritized. Next question is from Ozzy. Very technical question that I've been poking to maybe made a issue about. How does transform stream driver found on your user work exactly? Is there a way for the offsets to be desynced from the user's transform stream? I don't really mean like desynced, but essentially it's like what it's doing, like your position in the world that's synchronized through a stream. So like you're kind of like moving around, like your position is changing and so on. That's instead of like constant data model changes, that's actually being handled by a stream, which is a lot more efficient way to do it. However, there's still like things need to be able to set your position. Like for example, like a teleport system. Somebody teleports you, and then needs to change your position. So it has like these offsets which sort of calculate the offset relative to the stream, and that like kind of gets integrated with those to result in the final position. And like the goal is that like if something teleports you and you're still moving, it actually ends up be putting in the right spot. But I might actually rework how it works because right now it's a little bit convoluted and like it's kind of hard to reason about. So it might get replaced with like a bit of a different kind of handling system. I don't really understand what you mean with the desync though, so I can't answer that part. Next question's from Angel Boy. In the game called Strat Mechanic, I love that you can build a little thing out of the blocks provided that it shows on menu screen. Is it possible to put things in your user space like the dashboard, and how much can you add, or even what is allowed to be in there is there no limit? There's not really any limit. You can like put pretty much whatever in your user space, but thank you. I don't know, Ed was one way. Thank you, one way for the subscription. But yes, there's not really any limit, but like if you put too much, your user space is gonna be heavy, and you're gonna feel the performance impact. There's even mechanisms to put like objects into facets. Like it's pretty much like everything's objects like everything else, so there's nothing special about it, but you have to consider your performance and security. So like if you put some third-party stuff there, technically has access to your user space and your dash, which has your messages, contacts, stuff like that. So you want to be cautious with what you expose that to. Next question is asking, Fediverse Activity tab supports a very extensible format for profiles, and implementations like Mastodon and Misky use that give you lots of custom fields. Perhaps there's another profile should have arrays or rich text strings with optional links, alternate content types. Yeah, we would probably add some extensible systems so you can add lots of things in there. But you'll still see how much but I really like fields. I like having lots of customization options, so there's probably gonna be a whole bunch. Oh. And that's actually all the questions we have for now so far. We still have how much is that? 45 minutes left. So feel free to ask more questions. But I also do have a question towards everyone. Since I already had this prepared here. Has anyone, especially in the US, have you seen an aurora yesterday? Because there was a strong one. We went kind of late. It was late night. We had a message, and the aurora was very visible, and I got some really cool photos of it. I took this photo. You can see you don't quite see this vivid with your eye, but it is visible. You could see wall of light, and it was beautiful. This is, I think, at its strongest. And you can kind of see it's how it's a wall, how it just it's just night sky aurora. Next one. This one's also very pretty. I like that there's actually, clouds in front, so you get a little bit of depth to it. But look at these colors. There's blue, purplish over here. There's purplish, magenta, red. You could have been orange. There's yellow. There's green. There's the white. It's very pretty. This is the first time I saw an aurora, and and with the eye, it's fairly faint, but with the camera, you do long exposure and you get this, and I was just whoa. And it's not even that long exposure. I think this, some of them are 5 seconds, some are 10 seconds, and it's just very, very, very pretty. And you can see the streaks and what's kind of moving around. I'll show you another one. This one's I think this one's when it was still developing, it was still a bit weaker, but it's also it has more of the green over here, and you've got you see these are still kind of fainter.
It's so crazy pretty to imagine how, because you can sometimes some of the past ones I've seen, I could see the lines moving with my naked eye, and you could see them just waving across the sky, and those waves are huge. They're bigger than any cloud you could ever imagine, and they're moving incredibly fast over such a vast distance.
You just see this wall of light, these kind of streaks. It's very cool. I really like this one because there's a bunch of trees in the foreground, and it just kind of gives it a good kind of contrast to it. And you can see a little bit of the house here too.
Truly awe-inspiring. If you ever get to see one in real life, it is such an otherworldly experience that you've never it is just nothing you've ever felt before.
Yeah, I was really happy. I'm literally I'm flying home tomorrow, So like I was like very lucky to like get this, before I leave. Because last time that like they had like one that was this strong was like over a year ago. Like over here. This one's also like very pretty colors. And you can kind of see the wall, how it just kind of abruptly like ends over here.
Incredibly beautiful.
It's so pretty. It kind of makes me want to be like, like how do you like render this? Because like it's hard to like render like with a mesh. Like you can sort of approximate it, but like it's not like it doesn't have a surface. It's like it's a volumetric thing. It's like you need to like have some kind of like volumetric like rendering to like be really accurate with it.
I would do like ray marching or stuff like that. You'd have to like physically model it a little bit.
Yeah. I bet it'd be kind of cool to always like have like a physical models. Actually, I'm gonna put them in here.
All right, new Resonate feature, Aurora shader. Let's go.
Aurora shader. Once we have like shader support, like I swear somebody's gonna make it. I have a bunch more photos, but I'm gonna put this here.
Because just the auroras are just so beautiful to me. Like after, because like you see them on pictures and they're like, yeah, they're like pretty rainbow colors, like green and red and stuff. But like experiencing it in real life, even though it's like dim, like kind of dim to your eyes, it's just you can still feel like the sheer magnitude of it is awe-inspiring.
Oh yeah, it's very interesting because like the photos, they don't really like give the vastness of it. Like it is very pretty colors. But like you don't feel like there's like you like look up to the sky, there's just streaks of like light. It was a very cool experience. I'm glad I got to like see it. You know what it also means? Technically, the sky was gay on June the 1st.
This is a good omen for Pride Month.
Yeah, the sky was gay. Okay, we got some more questions. Well, Nukon's asking, what word and music is this talk about it? We just did like a little bit like right before this. This is the Ingredients Photo Studio is one of the MMC worlds, and the music is just by Kevin MacLeod. I chose the world because it's relatively like he's asking, when may I choose this world? What interests you about it? It's a nice setting. I've been kind of going through the MMC worlds, and this one's like relatively small, so I was like, let's just do this one for now. I don't want to do some of the other ones, some of the bigger ones too, once I get it back. And I didn't choose the music. The music that's part of the world that was made by people who made this world. Nukon saying Mindblower, it's the core of Earth spinning and generating massive electromagnetic field. It's like kind of funny because like you look like the ground is the ground, but when you think about it, like there's so much mass and there's literally like molten core this direction, like wherever you are, this direction under your feet, there's like molten core is like literally spinning. It's been spinning for so long.
I just wish I could describe the sheer like magnitude and speed with which Aurora moves. It's
I do have the time lapse a bit, but actually hold on, let me see if I can bring that in.
Because like you see it in real life and it's like these things that are just like going woo, woo across the sky. But it's just because they're so big, it's so fast and vast. It's just crazy. I can't even describe it.
I'm trying to bring the video.
I should bring in some of mine.
I did like a time lapse, but the time lapse was like after it was already kind of fading, so like it's not the best. Yeah. And it's like relatively short, but it still shows you some of the kind of movement of it. Okay, let's see if this loads. Is this gonna load? Oh, there we go. It's loading. Oh, it loaded.
Uh-huh. There we are.
Okay, behold. Is it relatively short? it's the only thing is like it's already kind of faded at this point, so like it's more. It's one of the things I noticed is like in the photos, like it's very well defined, kind of like color streaks. And as it kind of starts fading, kind of becomes more kind of blurry, more kind of like like a color blob. And we got another question from Angel Boy. Angel Boy is asking, where do I put this? Angel Boy is asking, to continue in the context of user space editing, what is at most allowed in terms of NSW, or even more dangerous or evil-minded things to be added to user space? Is there rules on what is not allowed in it? And what do you think about code and putting anything bad in the user space? If possible, to check at all. Also, thank you for answering your questions. There's not really any rules. Like, the user space is private. Like, it's literally just your private space. You can put whatever in it. Our main concern is, like you put some third-party stuff in there that's gonna like, maybe steal your data. So be careful about that. Or when you break it, and you make it Resonite unusable. But like, it's private. Like, it's kind of like, think of it as like, as your desktop on your PC. Is like, you put whatever wallpaper and whatever style you want on your desktop, like it's yours. If you make your desktop like messy and heavy, that's on you. But like it's not really something we're concerned with. And there's also like not really a way to like catch someone putting anything there. Like, it is private. Like, there's like we don't like have like a way to kind of check that. Next question's from Bitcrack IGN. Is user space facets a safe place to hold secrets and API keys? I was thinking about communicating with the sensor on there. To show the music I'm listening to, tag with API using my key in facet, show music in a word, and talk between cloud variables. Yeah, you could do that. Like, user space can be a good place to put it. But still kind of be cautious, make sure like you don't actually run any of the logic in world space and you keep it in like user space. And also, don't put like potentially dangerous facets in your user space. But otherwise, it should be like good place for stuff like that. And then using, cloud variables to kind of communicate stuff. Next question's from Ace on Twitch 17. With Resonite overlay, if you could invite someone that's in Resonite into your game, like VRChat, how would that work for user joining from Resonite? Does it make the user get on VRChat to try to join the user directly? I mean, this functionality doesn't really exist, so like right now, so we can like make it work. Like, if that gets implemented, we can make it work like which way like we want to, or we could. But like, I see like two main ways. Is like, one is like you just join their overlay, so you don't actually see the world they're in. You just, in the overlay, you honestly overlay stuff. The other one is, like it actually does launch another application, and if it can communicate with that application, it makes you join, whatever world they're in. So that'll be kind of the fancier method. I don't know if that's feasible right now. We haven't really done like the research. If like, VRChat has like an API or like method to kind of like, control which worlds you join. If they do, like, then it might be possible to implement something like this. If not, then you probably want to be able to join the overlay. Boy VR is asking, the sky was gay. Does that mean the sky was happy? I mean, it looks pretty happy. It was full of energy.
Literally.
Yeah. It had like, some strong electromagnetism.
Excited particles.
Excite. Dusty Sprinkles is asking, the nice thing about living in my state is when I have to drive 50 years to anyone else, I get great views of the Milky Way if I drive at night. I had a question mark so I can see it, but yeah, it's really cool. Just look at usually light pollution ruins the view. There was actually a thing, because we tried to like look for the aura earlier because it was supposed to be there, and there was a lot of light pollution, so we couldn't really see it. Like, I tried taking some photos, but then like we tried later and like we got this. So the light pollution is kind of higher like towards the city, like kind of like at the edge of it. So that kind of helps. but somehow like the light pollution actually got like lower. I wonder if like a lot of people just kind of turned off their lights or something during the aurora. Or... I'm not sure. There were like definitely like other people watching.
I've got some excellent shots of like the previous of like the previous auroras. Let's see here. Mine was like the first one, like for me, was like, sorry, I don't mean to like take up the questions. I was like talking about the aurora. If you want to answer this one, I'm still looking for some.
Oh, okay.
Pictures.
Next question's from Ace on Twitch. After we can use Resonite edition nameplates, are we allowed to use team members' rainbow nameplates? If so, is there a template that we can access to make our own? I think it's like accessible somewhere. Like I know like a bunch of people kind of have it. Like there's not really a rule against it. The main thing is like you cannot tell people like that you are a team member based on the name. Like it's not an indicator of a team member. If you do try to say that, if you try to like impersonate a team member, that's a problem. But like if you just use it as a thing, then like that should be fine. I would actually bring this question to like the moderation office hours. Ooh, look at the photos.
Yeah, I got it here. It's a little bit more like subtle, but like this was just in my backyard, which is pretty cool.
That's very cool.
Yeah, very pretty, like light pink and like pastel like hues and stuff on that one.
Yeah. It's very pretty.
So cool.
Moved it there. Next question is from Kaya Volps. I'm curious, what IDE do you prefer to work in Resonite? JetBrains Rider, Visual Studio, Code, or something else? I wouldn't say prefer. I would right now say like kind of forced to use is Visual Studio. Ooh, and my battery. Hold on, my battery is kind of getting low. I get the plug-in. Ugh. Cable. Okay, I'm back. Yeah, I would say like kind of forced to use Visual Studio, unfortunately. Like I would actually like to like switch because the problem is it keeps getting slower and slower and slower. And every time like they do like a survey, like like the satisfaction and whatever, and I fill it out and I'm like, I don't care about any of the new features. I don't care about new features, just please make it faster. Please make it, like not be so sluggish. And every like release is just like there's more new cool features, like it does this thing and it becomes more sluggish, and I'm like, So like unfortunately it still has like a lot of features that it kind of needs to like work on Resonite. And it's also like I would probably want to switch to JetBrains Rider, but like then one like requires like a license, like paid license for what we do, so that's kind of like a bit of a barrier too. So yeah, it's a little bit like a tricky situation, but we use like Visual Studio. That's the main one.
That's particularly why I ended up switching like to VS Code kind of like earlier on, after I became like a team member. Which is because Visual Studio is just it's like a giant diesel engine is how it feels. It's just like, it's like smoky and it's pokey. It's powerful for sure, but like it just is so clunky. And now I'm even moving away from like VS Code because it's starting to like shove a bunch of like AI features in it and like slowly creeping them in and making them hard to turn off. And it's just I'm like trying to like switch over to like Sublime Text myself at this point.
Yeah, it kind of gets difficult like with these things. It's also like some of the things like we use like the kind of like hard to get like work in other things like the T4 templates, for example.
Yeah, well, I did get those working at least.
Yeah. Next question is from Dusty Sprinkles. They're asking, first question from Bree, if you had unlimited funding, what projects would you be working on right now? There's a bunch. You probably one thing I'll probably do is we would do a lot of kind of cool 3D scanning stuff. Like we would build some kind of a rig for stuff and gather a bunch of data. We'd probably get people to do sort of cool hardware for interfacing with virtual reality and stuff. Doing stuff for events where we can have people sort of interact with the virtual world and have some scanners depth cameras and things where you get this sort of mixed reality kind of interaction. So that's probably something I'd like to I'd like to get people and funding and hardware to do. There's probably a bunch. We'll probably definitely hire a bunch of more people because I would like to get some people working say on Resonite mobile phone client. That'll be a really good one, and it's something that we can just be throw it at a team, make a really well polished app that does this kind of stuff. We would probably there would be a lot of expansion. If we're talking about documentation, we probably hire people responsible just for documentation. We would hire more people to help with lots of different things, both content side, community side, run events. There's actually another thing we probably invest into some sort of events that would help promote the platform and sort of create collaborations with stuff and different entities and events and projects and stuff like that. So there's quite a bit. I would want to build sort of a 3D scanning rig too, also for macro stuff, scanning small things. So just a lot of stuff. I have to think about it more. I could probably bring up a bunch more things, but that's what immediately comes to the top of my mind. So yeah, this is why does Visual Studio take 5? I just wanted to nice the number 500 million years to open. Fix one. Why don't you use old version of the S code?
Well,
You don't want to get stuck on an old version.
No, because it's once you start shunning new versions of software, you end up on a little island in the middle of an ocean, and you have nowhere else to go.
Yeah, it's not it kind of ends up accumulating issues over time and making things difficult. Hey, Sandwich, a house IDE for Resonite soon. We'll make IDE in Resonite, and then we'll develop Resonite fully in Resonite.
Alright, IDE entirely based on IMGUI, let's go.
Tomorrow's gonna be UX. Jurassic 5 is asking, I know moving files in your inventory is not supported yet, but is there API support for it? If not, how hard would it be to add? There's no support for API, unfortunately. You could sort of do it by saving. Well, sort of. You can sort of move them actually. You just have to take care of stuff So when you move stuff, you essentially have to do it recursively. What we want to add to the API is you just say move this folder here and everything in the subfolder as well, and it's gonna just schedule the task and just properly kind of move everything. So that is something that's missing. You can update the paths of individual records through the API, but it won't handle the recursion for you. You have to walk the entire path of everything you want to move, and then make API requests to move everything. So it's not really that hard to add either. It's more just a question of time. And it's actually something we're going to do as part of inventory UI work. Is we're going to add APIs to make this more robust, and then build the UI on top of it. Which is oftentimes I feel UI work is a little bit of a misnomer, because it's not just the UI that's being reworked, it's the stuff that the UI interacts with, as well. So it's not just a matter of making new things look pretty. It's reworking the functionality. Next question's from Bitcrack IGN. Would you be open to the idea of internships in the future? We actually did internships already. Like, Spider, like, do start this internship?
Yeah, I was a 3-month intern, which turned into a 6-month intern, which turned into hello, hi, I'm now Jonathan J, team member.
Yeah. So yeah, if you're like interested, like I would say like send us email at like hello at resonite.com or business at resonite.com, and we'll see. The only thing I'm gonna say, internships, like they have a limit, like they can be only up to 6 months, and after that, like, you know, you either need to become a hire or like the internship stops. So it's like, you know, it is gonna be very dependent, like, you know, on that case, like what you want to do. So we might, like, you know, like I'm not saying, like I'm not guaranteeing, like, you know, that we'll like agree to it. Next question from PSX Phone. Would you consider a more limited standalone version of Resonite that only does AR stuff, like hanging with friends with avatars in your living room, or things like photogrammetry tool that scans IRL stuff and makes visible to other people? It depends a little bit on what you want, because like in a way, like you cannot really make like limited version of Resonite in a way, like the engine itself, because everything's kind of using the same kind of set of primitives. So like you kind of have that stuff, but you could make, like, you know, experiences where it's more kind of guided, like you kind of, like, you know, it doesn't throw you into like big complex worlds, it only puts you in a simpler world. The dash is, like, you know, adjusted, so like it only shows you, you know, certain options, so it's kind of more like of a sandbox experience. I don't know, like, if you like want to do for, like, you know, for the AR stuff, because like I feel like, you know, big benefit of AR stuff is you'd be able to do all the cool Resonite stuff. You know, you'd be able to spawn things and mess around with things and so on. So we probably wouldn't do one like where it's just hanging out, and you know, when we try to like restrict all the other functionality. But we might make, like, you know, specific use cases like simpler to do. But if you want to pull out tools and like mess with things, we'll probably still let you do it, assuming you have, like, you know, the permission to do so in the world. And the next question's from Angel Boy VR. So checking time, we got about like 18 minutes left. So if you had like any more questions, like I should just ask them now, because depending on how long they take, you know, they might not be able to get through all of them. Anyway, Angel Boy is asking, I've been dabbling more and more in Flex, mostly all by myself, and people have been helping me along the way. But for completely new people, I was always wondering what is the first best thing to do or place to go to get started with Flex, and really skyrocket up from there. So that was like, it kind of depends like what background that person has, I think, because if they have some background in programming, I think that makes some things easier. If they don't, it's going to be harder to learn it, because they, like, you know, not only they're learning protoflex, but they're also learning programming at the same time. And I'll propose to just like going to some, like, you know, basic tutorials, you know, like that kind of walk you through the basics, you know, try to do simple things and so on. And once you kind of start, like, you know, going, find like cool things, like cool gadgets and things you like, take them apart, try to mess with them, try to understand how they work. That's like a good way to kind of learn, because you kind of, in a way, like learn from others as well. Answer Boy asking, do you both know that you are cute? I don't know if this is meant to be cute or quiet.
Yeah, I was gonna say that you might wanna. That's kind of it's. If it's cute, it's cutesy, but you should probably.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like mistyped quiet. But the audio is like not loud enough. Wow, seems to be going to the almost to the right. Oh, it's cute. Okay, so don't have to worry about audio. Okay. Next question's from Ice on Twitch. How modular would the inspector be when it gets reworked? I would say like pretty modular. So we want to rework it like using data feeds. So you can essentially specify, templates for pretty much everything. So like templates for components, but also templates for individual fields. So if you want to change, how, for example, color field looks like, switch out the template, add extra stuff to it. If you want to change the whole component, change like how the component looks, change that. We also want to make it so you can kind of compose it, so you can have additional modules. So like for example, the hierarchy, that's going to be like one kind of like view, like a tree-based view, but it's also like not hard-coded to work with a component view. It's just gonna, once you select something, that's gonna update like a dynamic variable, and then other modules, other facets gonna within the inspector react to the variable. So you can also build your own pieces of UI, like for example, with like special actions that you want to do, that react to that, and that let you expand the inspector. So you could not only change the sort of built-in UI and how it works and expand it, but you also be able to add extra modules that the inspector didn't have. It will become very, very, very modular. And it's primarily the goal of data feeds is heavily modularized stuff. Well, let's go over puzzles. Create, I don't know. Okay, do we get any more questions? What time do we have? We have 15 minutes left, but we can also end it early. Ooh, we get more photos.
Yeah, this one, the aurora is a little faint, but I think this is probably the best night sky picture I've ever taken.
Ooh, I think these are the play IDs, are they?
Yeah, you can even see I caught like a galaxy over here, this little wispy thing.
Oh yeah. Oh, actually, let me see if I can bring another photo, because let's see, where
oh yeah,
did
I wonder if we could match up the stars.
Oh yeah. I actually got another one, because we're looking at the sky, and one of the people he was like, is that also the aurora, the other way? And he wasn't sure if it was clouds or if it was just a little streaks of the aurora. So I took a photo of it. I was like, no, that's not, that's just clouds. But then I was processing the photos, and I was like, oh wait, I can actually see a bit of galaxy there. And I was like, I kind of now wish I took more photos, because I feel like I could have gotten more out of it. Let me see if I can bring that photo in. That's not. This is. Okay, this should be the photo. Oops. Copy. Paste. Oh, I really don't like the touch controllers. Let's see. It's coming in, it's high resolution. There we go. So, let me make sure this is visible on the camera.
Oh yeah, I see it.
Do you see it? Yeah. I was like... You see over here, it's kind of faint. So if I took maybe more time, I could get more out of it, but you can kind of see the galaxy a bit. A little But yeah, this is what he thought what might have been the aurora, but it's actually a cloud. It's I kind of boosted this a bit too, because in the processing. So this was very dark, very kind of faint. But I was like, ooh, that's actually galaxy, you can see it in there. I was very happy with it. I really like night photography, because it's all it's a little bit of a surprise, what you get. You don't super know in advance, you take the photo, you wait a bit, and then it's almost like a surprise.
Yeah. So pretty. I think I've caught the galaxy, the Milky Way cloud like that before on my phone as well.
Yeah. There's also a thing, you can barely, this is after the aurora has already kind of faded mostly, but you can still see a little bit, it's a little bit greenish glow and little streaks, but it's very, very faint. There's a little bit of red here.
That's so pretty.
Compared it to this, it's kind of the same spot. Actually, hold on, let me put these side by side, so this is before and after.
even like the subtle aurora is still very beautiful because it's just like
pretty.
it's just like a little like spice to the sky, you know.
Yeah. I thought you can't really see this one super much. Okay. We got 10 minutes left. We got a few more questions. Well, this is more of a cuteness. Ace on Twitch is also asking, with many future page ideas for the dash, like homepage or workshop, how big do you see the dash in 5 to 10 years? Like this big. Well, it's probably gonna get more organized, you know, as it kind of grows and things. Like, well, some of the things will get unified. Like, for example, you know, there's like stuff in the sessions UI, like you have the list of the users, and it might actually end up being combined, like, you know, with sort of contacts, where, like, you know, you see like the people you are in the world with, even like, you know, if some of them are not your contacts. So some of them we kind of might merge the functionality. Some of them, like, you know, it might get like subsections, like where, like, you know, you open and there's like a bunch of tools and things. So we'll probably keep it, like, you know, we want to keep it manageable and, like, you know, not intimidating. But we'll kind of see. Some things, you know, get combined, some get like replaced, you know, stuff like that. Oh, next question is Pride Text. What do you like about boys? They're cute. Oh, that's the stuff like we can talk about on the stream. There's actually other questions too.
The idea that Jupiter can kind of spit on me with photons is scary. Jupiter is very scary to me.
Why Jupiter? So I can bring more fun. I mean, it's the biggest planet in our solar system. Is that actually like interesting? That was like an interesting like article that like Jupiter used to be like, I think, twice as big. Like it still had like the same mass, but it kind of like shrank like over time.
Wow.
Apparently. Ace on Twitch 17 is asking, if you guys had the bandwidth, would you guys make Protoflux summer camp? What is summer camp really?
I think it's literally just like activities during like summer, like just miscellaneous activities. I think typically.
I think the keyword there is bandwidth. I mean, if we had like the resources, we'd probably do like could be cool to do like, you know, some stuff like have people like do challenges and stuff with Protoflux and so on.
Yeah. I have no clue what that is.
I'm also looking for... I got a few more as well I can show. Like, this is like when the aura was like starting. Oops. Did I click the wrong button? I kind of don't like... And also, the funny thing is, like, people like... One of the things people don't like, you know, with index controllers is like where you have to fully press the button to like click, but then, like, you know, the touch controller is actually the opposite, and I don't like it because I keep clicking things by accident.
Also, guys, if you're just talking in chat, don't add a question mark just so it shows up in the pinned messages. Like, please just talk in the chat.
Yeah. Keep it to the questions, please. I'm gonna...
For Cyro. I think we can both answer this.
I would say it depends a lot on which API you use, which version of Unity you use. I don't say, like, it also depends what you mean by unstable, because unstable can mean, like, you know, multiple things. Yeah. It can mean, you know, does it change between versions? Like, if you write something against the API and it works, and then upgrade Unity version, does it break? That's, like, you know, that's usually when you call about API instability, that's, like, you know, what you talk about. You could also consider instability in terms of, like, if you do something works 99% of the time, but then, like, you know, 1% of the time it just blows up for no reason, because sometimes that happens. That could be, like, you know, unstable, or unstable can just be like you call it wrong, it explodes, you know, like it depends a lot what do you mean by unstable. And even then,
Like-
I'm gonna say it depends which API.
Like, if you're talking about between Unity versions, it's kind of unstable between Unity versions. Like, usually if you upgrade a Unity game, at least from what I've heard, something is going to break.
I would
but,
actually
like,
say
these-
it's very stable for that. Like, that's one of the things they do, like, maintain a lot of, like, compatibility between versions. At least for a lot
Apparently
of,
not
like, a lot of
ours.
the core things. No, it depends on the stuff. Like the API stuff tends to be stable. It's, like, more... Like, it depends. It depends.
But yeah, I would call it more. I would call it more just like kind of crummy. It's just kind of like a crummy API. There's just little tiny
oh.
gotchas.
It also depends. Like, it's like one of
I
those
don't like
things,
it.
like, where I'm like... It's one of those things that's like... I don't like generic questions, like, because it's like... It's kind of like...
It does
It's a
depend
bit
on what
less-
you use.
It's a little bit like asking, like... How tasty is food?
Yeah,
And it's
I mean,
like, you know,
it-
you could be talking about squeeze, you could be talking about, you know, pasta, you could be talking about some gross thing somebody made. It depends.
yeah, like it does depend on the area. The areas that I have used have been kind of crummy. It's
Yeah.
a little bit crummy. Like, there's just tiny little gotchas like here and there. Like, oh great, this thing doesn't work. How do I get past it? Oh, nobody's gotten past it. They just kind of worked around it or like ignored it. Well, guess I'm out of luck, dude.
Yeah.
There's little things like
It's-
that here and there.
There's a bunch of stuff like that. I mean, kind of like experience both. There's like, you know, one, like I've had like ones where it kind of breaks, but also had like ones where like things just keep working. And they sort of auto-upgrade your code, which is actually like, you know, one thing that inspired me for Resonite to make things, you know, just kind of keep working and keep upgrading stuff. So, it depends. It depends
Yeah,
a lot.
I would say more so Unity's features are kind of full of weird behavior, like the particle system, for example, where like the coordinate system is all screwed up on the particle system.
Yeah. But it also depends because the particle system is a big system. And some of
Well,
it, like,
yeah.
some of it you're not, and it also depends what you're doing because, like, some of it, like, you're not gonna be exposed to unless you go, like, low level. And the problem is, like, we go low level a lot of the time. But a lot of
Yeah.
times when you're on high level, like, you know, we're not gonna be dealing with that. Caleb is also asking, I don't know if this was asked, but would you have used Godot to start with if it was at current state back then, or would you still have wanted Unity? I mean, that's really hard to answer because, like, you know, kind of needs time travel.
Yeah.
It depends, you know, like what things would like. It depends, like, just like. It depends, like, you know, like, it's weird because, like, I don't know, like, you know, back then, what would the market look like, you know, with Godot being, like, in its current state? Would it look really like Unity and Godot in its current state, but Godot also in its current state means it supports things like, you know, APIs and stuff that didn't exist back then. So, like, you know, like, so it's just a real weird question because it's like, you know, like, how does this, like, you know, reality work? Because, like, Godot, like, has stuff and approaches and, you know, libraries and things and APIs that, like, for things that didn't exist back then. So if Godot existed in its current state, does it mean those things existed? Like, it's a weird question. Like, I don't know how to, like, grapple it. So I guess it would kind of better, like, be like, you know, like, what if, you know, if Godot existed, like, if we were starting now, what would we use? But yeah, like, I don't know how to, like, grapple this one.
We have
So we
30
kind
seconds
of,
left.
yeah, we have to, like, wrap this up. So we won't get to the last question, but thank you very much for watching. Thank you for asking all the questions. like I hope like you can enjoy it, like enjoying the stream. I hope like enjoyed like us rambling about Auroras and Doctor Who. And thank you very much for everyone who's like supporting the platform, whichever way supporting, whether it's making content, like making reports, helping users, like bringing people in, or supporting us on Patreon or Stripe. If you are on Patreon, I would ask consider switching to Stripe, because we get like 10% more from the same amount of money, so it kind of helps us a lot. But whichever way you support, it still helps. So thank you very much for watching. Thanks, Sire, for being here and showing stuff and helping answer questions. And we'll see you, I think, next week. I should be back home, so be a little bit more stable too. So thank you very much. And actually, let's see. Do we have anybody to donate? Is anyone streaming? If you're streaming Resonite around this time, then you're probably gonna get raided. I'm just checking. And of course Twitch is taking forever to load. Come on. Why is it taking forever? There we go, there's Resonite up. Resonite. Is there... Oh, there's no channel, not even Creator Jam. Okay, unfortunately this means the stream ends here, so thank you very much and bye.